Good morning, everyone. This is going to be viewer requested top 5 tarot decks for beginners. And thank you so much for recommending this because I cannot believe that I forgot to do a video on this. So I'm very excited. Thank you so much for asking for this video. And I'm going to talk about 5 decks this morning that I would recommend to beginners. 3 of them follow the Rider-Waite-Smith system quite closely. The 4th is somewhat faithful to the Rider-Waite-Smith system. The final deck is not necessarily close to the Rider-Waite-Smith system, but is the deck that changed my life, and so therefore I cannot not include it on a recommended tarot deck list. So I'm going to get started right away. I'm going to start with, I have my decks all over the place here, the Greer Tarot. This is what the backing looks like. This is the little white book that accompanies this deck. I definitely highly recommend for the next 3 decks I'm about to talk about that you have a Tarot for Beginners book that you work with that coincides with your working with this deck. Tarot 101 by Kim Huggins, Psychic Tarot by Nancy Antonucci, and there's another author, I've forgotten her name, Melanie Howard. Or 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack. Those books are very, very helpful as you begin your journey with tarot. And they'll work very well with these decks as you're working with them. They'll help things be a lot clearer for you as you start on your journey, especially if you're getting a deck that just has this little, few page book that accompanies it. The little white book itself is not particularly helpful in my opinion, and so I wouldn't even really worry about that book that much. I would just get into working with your beginner book with this deck and your intuition and imagination. The deck does have a very 70s theme. You can tell that by the colors that it's quite dated, similar, just like the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is dated in its own way for its time period. But the colors are really great and very saturated, so it's wonderful to get your intuition and your imagination going as you are starting to get comfortable with the symbolism and understand how you're going to work with tarot yourself. Here's the King of Pentacles, the 6 of Swords. I love the fact that there's no border and the image takes up the whole card because I think that really allows you to be drawn right into the image. Let's see what else is. Here's the 4 of Swords. The 3 of Cups. Oh, the Magician. So 70s. So, I don't use this deck that often anymore, but when I was first getting comfortable with the tarot system, especially getting to know the Rider-Waite-Smith system, this deck definitely helped me with that transition. So, the Greer Tarot is on my list of top 5 for beginners. The next deck I'm going to talk about is the Golden Tarot by Kat Black. This deck is really beautiful. She did it with digital collage. And so the artwork is quite medieval feeling. It's got the golden edged cards, which is just beautiful. It really helps you to get into that kind of sacred space as you're working with your cards. This is the backing. It's absolutely gorgeous. Here's the 7 of Coins. And the symbolism in this deck is really very deep. Here's the Moon. Here's Judgment. So it's quite ornate. Here's the Devil. And a very beautiful deck. And this is the book that accompanies the Golden Tarot. She obviously has put a lot of work and love into the deck and the book itself. You can see you get a small representation of the card image, the meaning, the reversed meaning, what multiples of certain numbers and things will mean in the spread. And she has an intro that she talks about too. I think some of her meanings can be a bit dogmatic and she can get really like it can only mean this. So just take that with a grain of salt. Use what works for you as you're going through the guidebook, and what doesn't, don't feel like you need to hold on to. So the second on my list is the Golden Tarot by Kat Black. Next on my list, and I don't use the Golden Tarot that often now either. I have one family member that the Golden Tarot likes, and I do reserve. You know, I use that deck for her, but not often in my practice. The next deck I'm going to talk about is the Tarot of the Magical Forest. The size of these cards is great. It's a typical low Scarebeo size. They fit comfortably in smaller hands. So that's great to start out with. This deck does use reversals, as you can tell, as all of the decks so far have. The images are quite whimsical and fantastical. They're really, really cute and they're fun. And it follows the Rider-Waite-Smith system quite closely. But it really helps you to get comfortable with working with tarot, to have a little giggle here and there because the images can be so cute. Here's the King of Wands. And to just enjoy getting to know the Rider-Waite-Smith system and seeing if tarot is a structure that you want to continue to work with in your life. Here's the Four of Pentacles. And Tallulah likes this deck. Let's see. Oh, here's the Hanged Man. I love this image. And this deck just makes me, I do like this deck a lot. It just makes me smile. There's the Five of Cups. It's so much fun. Oh, here's Strength. And Three of Wands. Oh, let's see. Oh, here's, I don't know if I showed swords, Ten of Swords. You can see the cat. So each suit has its own animal, which is really nice. The little white book looks as if it's going to give you some information, but it's published in several languages in this, so it doesn't really give you a whole lot of information. It also doesn't really give you divinatory meanings either. It just kind of talks about each card a little bit to get your imagination going. This can be a great exercise for you to work with your intuition and your psychic abilities as you're working with the cards instead of just reading out the divinatory meaning. But it can be difficult when you're first starting with tarot to feel comfortable with this little white book. So I would definitely recommend, again, that you have a Tarot for Beginners book that you use in conjunction with this. And the images on these cards will be very helpful and should go pretty closely right along with your Tarot for Beginners book. So Tarot of the Magical Forest is number 3 on my recommended decks for beginners. The next 2 tarot decks that I'm going to talk about follow the Rider-Waite-Smith system less closely than the first 3 that I've talked about. I still use these 2 tarot decks. To this day, I use them quite often. I love them. I read for myself with them. I read for clients with them. They're excellent decks. And 4th on my list is the Steampunk Tarot by Barbara Moore and Ali Fell. There's the backing. There's the Three of Swords. The border is quite thin, which is nice. The cards clearly list what each of them are, which is very helpful when you're first getting acquainted with all 78 of the cards. Here's the Five of Pentacles. Here's the Devil. Let's see. She's misbehaving today. Here's Justice. It does follow a steampunk theme, so if that doesn't appeal to you, here's the Seven of Wands, then certainly feel free to not purchase this deck. Here is the guidebook that accompanies the deck. It is a great guidebook. She has a lengthy introduction, which is very helpful, especially as you're just getting comfortable working with tarot. And then for each card she has, and a full-size page reproduction of the image, which is very helpful when you're reading the guidebook. Then she has kind of like a little quote, a core meaning, and then she talks about the card image for several paragraphs, really helping you to get to know each of the cards and the energies that are working with the cards and the tarot divination system as well. So I highly recommend Steampunk Tarot. I mean, and you can even just get to know this deck without needing a Tarot for Beginners book. That's how thorough the guidebook is for this. The 5th and final deck that I'm going to talk about for beginners, and I have to do this because I love and adore this deck, is Tarot of the Vampyres by Ian Daniels. This is the backing. This deck does not follow the Rider-Waite-Smith system very closely at all. However, you don't need to be stressed out about that because the Phantasmagoria guidebook that accompanies the Tarot of the Vampires by Ian Daniels is the most thorough guidebook I've worked with to date. He is extremely thorough in his explanations. He talks about the roots of each card. You're going to get an intro into the Kabbalah and astrology as well, so you can see if those are avenues that you want to pursue further with tarot and outside of tarot as well. Absolutely amazing. And the artwork, if you like a darker themed deck, the artwork is stunning, and it's really going to get your intuition and your imagination and your psychic abilities going. Here's the Ten of Swords. The Ten of Scepters. Here's the Star. They're just filled with esoteric symbolism. Very, very deep cards. Eight of Knives. You can just spend quite a period of time meditating with these cards. And really, really, this deck will get to know you at a very personal and in-depth level. Here's the Moon. The symbolism does not follow the Rider-Waite-Smith system closely, though. So if you have absolutely no knowledge of that system, be aware that when you go to purchase another deck, it's going to have different symbolism, slightly different symbolism to very different symbolism in each card. Here's Death. The Five of Knives. Here's Seven of Skulls. Absolutely amazing. I'm sorry, that was Seven of Skulls, yes, and here's the Five of Skulls. Here's Temperance. This is my life deck. Like, this is the deck that I will use throughout my entire life. I use it the most in readings for others. I use it the most in readings for myself as well. So it's an extremely, here's the Priestess. Beautiful, amazing deck. Here's the Hermit. This is the deck that I purchased it at the beginning of my relationship with tarot. And as soon as I looked at the images and started reading the book, I knew that this was what I was going to be doing with my life and what I was going to be focusing on for a large part in helping myself heal and then helping other people heal throughout their lives as well. So let me show you. Let me see, I'm at 12. Okay, I still have a few more minutes. This is, and you can see I have notes all over this thing. He doesn't have reproductions of the image in the book, which is my only gripe. I wish that he did, because the images are just so amazing. So you really need to have the deck with you as you work with the book. But he talks about the assignments of each card astrologically in the Kabbalah, etc., etc. He has keywords, and then he has pages of the meaning behind the artwork, and then the analysis and symbolism, and then the shadow side of each card. So it's very in-depth, very thorough book. Quite a thorough introduction. He gives you several really great spreads to start out with. And he also, you can see there's the Kabbalah reproduced, so you can get an idea of it. He also has a great chart in here. Talking about your birth card, and then the cards that are reflecting your life journey. This is a lot of fun to use for yourself and to share with your friends and family, and also to use with clients. Let them know what their birth card is in tarot. And it's amazing how close it mirrors life experiences for each of us. So to recap, my top 5 tarot decks for beginners: Morgan Greer Tarot, Golden Tarot by Kat Black, Tarot of the Magical Forest, published by Scarebeo, the Steampunk Tarot by Barbara Moore, and the Tarot of the Vampires by Ian Daniels. Please purchase the accompanying book, Phantasmagoria, with it. It comes as a set, but you can also just get the deck separately, and it's worth having this book. This book is amazing. So thank you so much for asking me to make this video. I love doing videos like this, and I can't believe I hadn't done it before then. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.